The government's plan to privatise Channel 4 risks undermining the future of British-made television. However, in the immediate term, it's had the opposite effect. That's because Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries has produced some of the best original surrealist comedy we've seen in Britain for years. Take a look at Dorries this week, giving evidence to the Culture Select Committee.
You conducted a privatisation consultation. It generated a very impressive 56,293 responses, according to the white paper. What percentage of those supported privatisation?
Sorry, the 96% of?
There were 56,293 responses when you asked people about privatisation. What percentage of those 56,000 supported privatisation?
I think the figure was about 96%, but also
supported
I'd like to finish answering the question, if that's possible, Chair.
That was Nadine Dorries saying that in her consultation, 96% of respondents supported privatisation. In fact, 96% of respondents opposed privatisation. She then asked for the right to finish her answer instead of being corrected. Now, we should be fair. In the rest of her answer, it was clear Dorries did know that a majority of people consulted opposed Channel 4 privatisation. She's just happy to ignore them. Let's go to another notable part of the committee, though. It's this.
Netflix, well, I think I've always thought it's an incredibly generous system that it has. If you have a account of allowing other people, I mean, my mum has access to my account. Kids do. I have Netflix, but there are 4 other people who can use my Netflix accounts in different parts of the country.
Just learned something.
So I think they're going to probably change their model. Well, am I not supposed to do that?
I don't know.
They'll probably change their model and take on board advertising.
So many people watch it in my house, I had to pay for the more expensive one.
Nadine Dorries' behaviour in this case is clearly not uncommon. I wouldn't judge her for it. It is, however, against the Netflix terms of service, which say it's forbidden to share your password to anyone beyond your household. Why this is problematic is because we already know Nadine Dorries doesn't understand how Channel 4 works, and now she doesn't seem to understand how Netflix works, or at least how Netflix wants to work anyway. Aaron, your thoughts on another intervention from Nadine Dorries in a Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee hearing where she doesn't seem to be really on top of her brief?
Nadine Dorries is creating historic problems for YouTube thumbnail producers everywhere. How many clips can you have where it says another Nadine Dorries screw up on Channel 4 privatisation? It seems like every week she's basically speaking to a form of sort of procedural accountability in the House of Commons, and it could be a select committee or God knows how many different committees you have to talk to when you're doing something of this magnitude, rightly so. But it does seem relatively regular. And the point about Netflix, again, I think Netflix this year is looking to spend, $6 to $7 billion on content creation. Globally, the big players, Apple TV, Netflix, Disney, Amazon, between them, you're looking at around, I think, about $100 billion, Michael, in creating new content. $100 billion. Okay, Channel 4 can't do that. Okay, it's quite plausible. You might have a British business reach a global audience and you'd have to sink a bunch of money into it and it might get a decent share of the market. I don't think so, by the way, because look at Netflix. It's losing loads of money and it's also losing subscribers in the first quarter of this year. As we said in a previous show, huge market, saturated, loads of people throwing money into it. Probably at the other side of this in 4 or 5 years' time, 2 or 3 of them will survive and they'll be profitable. With the best will in the world, I don't think Nadine Dorries would pick the winner.
I watched a fair amount of that select committee. I don't normally, they are quite slow. I don't normally sit down and watch an hour of select committees, but I was looking for those clips this morning. And what is remarkable about select committee hearings with Nadine Dorries is she just so clearly doesn't know what she's talking about. And as I said, culture, media and sports, not the most important department. Like, I think she was put there to just be a cheerleader for Boris Johnson and to be someone who is more loyal than loyal, really, really will go out and bat for him, whatever he has done. But she is making a big move here. Privatising Channel 4 is a huge, risky move for a culture secretary to take, and she just doesn't know much about it at all. We've shown you before those clips where she tells the select committee that Channel 4 is publicly funded when it's not. We now see she doesn't know how Netflix is supposed to work. All of her interventions in that select committee hearing were basically her saying, look, we have a really, really successful TV industry in this company. We have all of these flourishing independent media organizations. And then she kind of admits, and that's because companies like Channel 4, which don't produce their own content, have sort of gone to them to do this. And then obviously you're sitting there thinking, why are you fixing something that's not broke? And then she says, well, because we have to privatize it now while it's doing well, because I predict that in 5 years it's going to be doing badly and then we won't be able to sell it. So she's like, a smart investor sells a business when it's doing well. And that's her explanation. Channel 4 is working, and that's why we're going to completely transform how it works. Very odd. An argument she also used, which I found quite interesting, she said, Margaret Thatcher created this because she wanted to spur the development of a culture industry of independent companies in Britain. That has worked, and now we don't need it anymore. Now, to be honest, my knowledge of how and when the culture industry in Britain flourished is not particularly strong, but I'd just like to apply that logic to all of Margaret Thatcher's other achievements. Can we say that, her privatization of the airlines increased investment? I don't even know if it did, but let's go for a Dorries argument. Increased investment and allowed them to borrow more on private markets. If it's worked, maybe we don't need it anymore. Maybe we can nationalize everything she privatized, because what she wanted, if it's worked, then it's happened and we don't need it anymore. Let's renationalize all of the things she privatized and privatize the one thing she created to be publicly owned. If that's the deal, I'll go for it. Tysky Sour is free for all to access. We're not behind a paywall. We don't have ad partnerships. And we will never answer to the super rich. We provide independent analysis, thorough reporting on the issues drastically impacting our lives. And we do all this thanks to our regular supporters. Join them from just £1 per month and donate anything you can at novaramedia.com/support. We couldn't make the show without you.